Hi, this is Pete Ekman with the RoboZone podcast. With me tonight, I have none other than Andy from AndyMark. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm doing great, Pete. It's an honor to be with you tonight. Thanks for having me.
And you're the first person to come on like the live, our new streaming service through Restream. You're the first. You're our beta test.
Woo!
Oh, thank you for beta testing with us and getting ready for the upcoming season. Um, Through the last month, I've had a couple individuals on the podcast that have brought new products to the upcoming season. Now that we're getting into a normal upcoming season, normal air quote, we're all hoping, everything's going to go good. I couldn't do that without you. So if people don't know that much about AndyMark, can you give them a little bit of history about AndyMark?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I could do that. Mark Coors and I started the company in 2004, the summer of 2004. We were getting ready for the 2005 FRC season. Before that, and since then, really, we've been longtime FIRST mentors. We started because we thought it was hard to find common off-the-shelf parts like Omni wheels and planetary gearboxes and lightweight sprockets and battery cables that FIRST teams used. And they spent a lot of time remaking these things every year. So if there was a place where they could get them off the shelf, they could be a standard part. They wouldn't spend so much time reinventing the wheel literally every year for their robots. So gosh, that was many years ago. Mark ended up retiring in 2016, and sadly, he passed away about a year ago. So
Okay.
the FIRST community misses Mark, as we all do. But yeah, he was my business partner for 12 years, and we grew the company from our garages out to where we have about 30, maybe 32 full-time employees now, and we ship worldwide from here in our warehouse here in Kokomo.
That's a nice. I know all about AndyMark. Me and you met. It was still at St. Louis
Yeah.
when I first interviewed you. It seems like many moons ago, but it wasn't that long ago,
It
right?
was. It was.
Well, was it? I mean, 5 years, 4 years, something like that, before we started splitting the championships. Now we're going back to one championship, right? Because of
Right.
the thing, which is very interesting. I know there's a lot of discussion out there on Chief Delphi. I try to stay off Chief Delphi as much as I can because, everyone can have an opinion, which is great, but sometimes
Right.
there's no consensus. So
Right.
I wait for FIRST to email me saying this is what it is, and then I do that. So, but thank you for a little bit of a history on AndyMark. You yourself are a mentor, correct?
Yeah, I got on a team, the Technocats, Team 45, FRC Team 45, in 1998. But even before that, when I was 22, I'm 52 now. So when I was 22, um, my first day at Delphi, or then Delco, I sat next to the guys who were the lead engineers on what then was called the Science Cats, and this was 1992, the year with the corn and the tethered robots, all that. I was able to see that from the first year. My coworkers were the mentors on the team. I didn't get on the team until 98, and then I've been a mentor ever since. And actually, news for me is I was on Technocats for 14 years. My daughters got to be in high school. We started a new team at their high school because they didn't go to Kokomo High School. So at Northwestern High School, we started Cybertooth FRC 3940. So I
Okay.
think this will be Cybertooth's 12th, 11th year, 12th, yeah, something like that. um, this will be their 11th year, and they have a very mature group of mentors, and Technocats have lost some mentors. So look where I'm going. I'm going back to Technocats this year to help their team out. So because my daughters are all graduated through the Cybertooth program, so I get to go back to Kokomo High School to help them as much as I can.
And what better of a resource as a mentor to have than someone that that owns AndyMark? I mean, I don't think there's a special privilege. I don't want to put that out there. I think that you're very focused on what FRC is. So myself being a head mentor, always having focused mentors is great to have because you're vested, right? We don't have to teach anything. You already know what's going on. And then you can bring everything that you learn from the students that you have from FRC that go work for AndyMark. Because I think, and I may be wrong, but isn't every single employee either somehow related to FIRST in some way that it works for AndyMark?
Oh no, we have. I took a poll the other day. I looked at our staff demographics, and I think about 65% of our staff have something to do with FIRST. So we have a lot of people who haven't been to a FIRST event. They want to, but like we hired a new HR person, we hired a new procurement manager, and we hired a new controller. Those three people are all new, and we've hired them since champs of 2019. So 2020 was just getting started. We were planning on getting them to an event so they can see what an event was like, but we didn't get them out to an event in 2020 because of COVID. And then we also have a lot of warehouse people, a lot of hourly people who aren't on teams, didn't come from teams. Some of them are, some of them aren't. So about 60% of our staff has some FIRST experience. Many of that group are alumni. So we have some people who are alumni they've been doing FIRST for most of their lives, which is kind of a crazy thought as you think about it.
So I'll refine my statement. The majority of people that work at AndyMark are somehow related to FIRST.
There you go. Yeah, I like that.
I know a couple of people. I've interviewed them from AndyMark, and they've told me about their coming up in FTC and FRC, and now they work for AndyMark and they love it. So that's just a glowing recommendation that you're a good boss. So
thanks.
Make sure to give them a candy cane tomorrow because I said that.
Very nice of you, Pete. That's very kind.
But the core reason we have you here, Andy, to loop the circle back, we did a little bit of history, is about new products that you guys are bringing out for the 2022 Rapid React season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
one of those you showed me before we started recording. So do you want to make that your first, or do you want to save that to last?
Yeah, no, I can do that one first. Get it out of the way. This is one of our showcase new products we have. It's called the Climber in a Box. So this is, so you got a sim motor here. Obviously you have a sport gearbox here, and it's driving a shaft that has a spool on it that has super high strength, like Spectra cable. This cable is like 2,000 pounds brake strength. It's for sailing, but it's a winch system, and it's pulling the hook back into the extrusion system. So this is the business end of the system, and it has a hook. We sell this hook assembly, but you could just put whatever you want on here. You could put a boxing glove on here for all I care, but there's two holes in this 1x1 tubing here, and those two holes you can mount anything to. The cable goes up inside of the tubes, and it's grabbing a hold of a spacer that's between those two holes. And you can see here, there is a constant force spring. There's 4 of these. And so that is actually pushing the tube out. So let's see if I can do this correctly here. I got a power supply. Okay, so we're going out. Woo!
Nice.
And then so the spool is letting out slack, and the constant force springs are pushing out the extrusions. And then if I pull it back in, the winch is doing its job. There's a bunch of there's bearings here. There's ball bearings on this end. So you can see 2 bearings here and 2 bearings here. Whereas inside of the tube, down in the guts of the tube in here, there are nylon molded plastic slider bearings that are attached to the smallest tube, and that's riding inside of the intermediate tube. And then there's another set attached to the intermediate tube on the outside, and they're riding inside of this 2-inch by 2-inch tube. The tube that we spec for this is 1/16 inch thick wall, aluminum 6061 tube. It's plenty strong for what you're doing. And I think, I mean, honestly, we haven't broken this thing, but I think the thing that would break at first at like 2,000 pounds, if we had an infinite amount of torque, would be the cable, not the other pieces. But like I said, we haven't put 2,000 pounds on this thing to break it. Normal cases, you're going to have one or more of these on an FRC robot, and you're going to have a 150-pound robot going up and down on some kind of a lift system, just like this past year on the that upside down.
I call it the teeter totter.
Yeah. Did you say tater totter? Is that what you said?
Teeter totter.
I like tater totter better. That was good, Pete.
We'll go with it.
But yeah, it would be plenty strong for our application. Many teams, many years have used this same type of cable, these same types of products for lifting a robot in that situation. So you can put, I mean, this is the gearbox and the motor does not come with a standard product. So you have to spec out the gearbox and the motor for your speed and your lift, I guess your lift strength or power. I mean, it's all about torque and speed in order to get the right lift sequence that you want.
Right, I can see it multiple. I have a brand new UTV. Maybe I can lift that thing with that. It's under 2,000 pounds.
Okay, it doesn't mean you can lift 2,000 pounds if it's on the end. You're essentially winching up 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Like I said, I shouldn't go on about 2,000 pounds. That's the break strength of the cable.
Right.
Like I said, we haven't. We know we can go up and down many times over with a FRC robot. That's for sure.
I'm just saying I could test it for you. No, I'm just joking. Just straight up.
We should have it like a will it break type of what will break this thing.
You remember will it blend? Did you ever see those videos? Will it blend where he uses the blender and he just blends like an iPhone? So. Yeah,
like they put oh my gosh. Yeah. What's the I'm blanking out. Walker Texas Ranger. Who's the actor?
Oh, Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris. Gosh, why is that a blank? But yeah, they would put Chuck Norris in there, and he's the only thing I don't remember ever blending. He just come out without any scratches on him. That was
and you sucker punch you as soon as he comes out. Watch out.
Yeah.
So last year, I'll be quite honest, it was a very difficult thing to try to figure out how to lift. I think that's one of those things we have it in every game. But yet, last year was a little bit different, right? I mean, we ended up doing it, but not something. If we had something like that, it'd be a lot easier. I'm a lower resource team. We don't have a lot of mechanical. We don't have engineers on the team. So that's something that I think offers to a lower resource team or a team that is more focused on another part of the game where they can purchase that from you, put it together, spec it out. And I can see all kinds of different attachments you could put on the top of it, and even the different motors and the ratios like you were talking about. If you want something lighter, put a sim or a red line motor on that, something of that nature. So
if you look back many years, if you look back all the years of FRC, like even the past 10 years, about half the games have something to do with lifting a robot. 2013, underneath the pyramid, you're lifting up to get at least 10 points. 2014, you didn't. 2015, you didn't. 2016, you can get points at the end of the match by doing a pull up on the
stronghold. Yep.
Yeah, on stronghold on the tower thing they had. I forget the name of that. 17, you climbed a rope, so you wouldn't use this. 18. 18 you would, because on the middle switch you were doing a chin up and you were trying to pull people up with you sometimes, so you might, like, these would be tested under not just one robot's weight, but maybe up to 3 robots weights. 19, it wouldn't really help you much by getting up on the platforms, but 2020 obviously it was important. So we're thinking about every other year, maybe 2 out of 5 years, it's a good product. So I think if we use it this year, great. If we don't use it in the future years, no. If we don't use it this year, or if we use it in the next 2 years, great. But we're bound to be lifting robots sometime. That seems to be a common theme amongst FRC game design.
It's a staple.
Yeah.
It's a staple. Just like a water game. I have to throw the water game thing out there so people just laugh.
It's a great end game. Lifting and being in the position to be hanging for something is a great visual for an end game. It's a great thing for refs to give extra points for. It's exciting. It's fun.
So, and I love the hook. I'm going to just call it the hook. I mean, it doesn't come with the hook on the end, but I mean, the lift. Let's call it the lift. I love it. It looks very Mad Max. If people don't know what I'm talking about, go out there and look it up. Yeah. Mel Gibson. I'm that old. So, what other products have you guys released for this coming season, Andy?
Well, so we've released a few things periodically throughout the fall and even in the summer, and then we also released some stuff just last week. So, gosh, like one of the new game pieces for FTC was a duck. That was kind of fun. That released back in September. So we've got lots of ducks swimming around here. We've got this one we just released this last week. It's a 2¼ inch vectored intake wheel. It's a Mecanum wheel, but it's really designed to be an intake wheel for gathering game pieces on your roller system. So it's really heavy duty. It can, this thing can hit a wall if it's outside your bumper system, and it's gonna withstand a bump against a wall or a robot pretty well. It's got steel side plates here, and it has nylon rollers that spin freely, and it has a 1/2 inch hex in the middle, so you can drive it with a churro or a 1/2 inch hex shaft, depending on how much torque you want to put into it, what type of shaft you want to put on it as far as the strength of the shaft. But we're really happy with the development of this. It's taken us probably, I swear, we've had designs for about 4 or 5 years of a small Mecanum wheel, and I'm very relieved that we finally have it out. The guys worked really hard to get this design right, to do the sourcing correctly, and I'm really happy how it turned out. So, our staff here has done a great job of developing these products. Gosh, another one. This is kind of hard to explain, but it's pretty cool. Okay, so if you use the Am154 chassis, we've had the Am1 for a long time, almost, I don't know, 7-8 years. But one of the problems with changing a wheel on that type of chassis, since it's not a cantilevered wheel or a West Coast drive type setup, you have a very well supported wheel with a 3/8 bolt going through 2 3/8 bearings on the wheel. Usually it's a dead axle, at least on the ends of the setup. So you have the cap of the screw on the outside of the axle, and then a nut on the screw or the axle on the inside. Sometimes it's hard to get a wrench on that nut. So we've come up with this little molded plastic piece that you rivet to the inside plate of your Am154. Once it's riveted in place, it's a threaded nut. There's a nut that's kind of slightly pressed in there in this plastic polycarbonate piece. It's really simple, but it saves you boatloads of time to change out that wheel. You don't have to have a wrench on the inside. You don't have to have access to the inside of that axle. So all you're doing is you're pulling out the axle and putting it back in, and your nut's still there. So that's a really nifty little thing. And we actually have these. These are available in First Choice right now. So we put them into First Choice so people can use them on their Am154 chassis.
I've used that chassis since we started. This will be our 5th year. This will be our 5th year. I know firsthand how hard it is to change out that wheel that you're talking about. I have nightmares sometimes. It depends. It's not the design. Don't get me wrong. It's the coming out of a match. You got a broken wheel. You got to replace it. Your heart's racing. You got to 3 matches later. That'll save me a lot of time. That's a good investment right there.
We've had a lot of success as a team on Cybertooth to run the Am154 probably the last 4 or 5 years. And what we usually do, because we like for it not to rock as much with that drop center wheel, we upgrade it to an 8-wheel drive, and it has 4 wheels that are dropped in the center, and so it doesn't rock as much. Some people really complain about that, and they want to put all wheels on the same line and maybe have one set of wheels that are omni wheels, but you don't need to do that. Just make it an 8-wheel drive and you don't rock as much. 6-wheel drive works fine. Kind of depends on how you allocate your center of gravity, but our team has done a lot of good work with an 8-wheel drop center or drop middle 4-wheel design. That's just an upgrade kit at the website. You can find the 8-wheel drive upgrade kit for the Am154, and that's been available for years. So not a new product. I just wanted to point it out. Let's see another thing. We've had these out for a while. We've had these things. We call them sushi rollers, and we have different bore sizes for these. Obviously the different color is a different urethane. This is our soft. No, yeah. Green is our softest. Orange is slightly harder. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. And then blue and then black. But we have different, like this is a 1/2-inch bore. That's 3/8 bore. This is a 5mm hex bore. And that's another 1/2-inch hex bore. So these are really popular and really small for teams that want to spin something. Like there were a lot of teams that were using this to spin the control panel on last year's game. So the color wheel, or whatever we wanted to call it, the
Circle of
control
death.
panel.
The circle of death.
It's a really small little wheel, and it weighs not much weight, and you can spin it at a high RPM, and you're not going to get as much linear velocity. So
okay.
With a smaller wheel, you don't have to gear down your gearbox as much in order to make that linear velocity work for what your application is. So these are cheap, simple, nice,
and they're very sticky. I have a couple of them. They did stick to that wheel pretty well.
Yeah. Some teams use these for intake rollers and such. Speaking of intake, these were really popular. We got them out at the FTC game this year. We call these a spin take. They're actually water jet cut from a sheet of silicon, and they are just like a flapper intake widget, and they go over your drive shaft, and as it spins, it'll just pick up odd shaped objects like a duck or a cube. Odd shaped stuff is good to be picked up, like with odd shaped spinner intakes.
So those might be helpful if this year. I don't know nothing about this year's game. I'm just putting that out there. But should we have to pick up maybe a football?
Oh,
we've never had
amazing.
A football.
Could you imagine? I would love to have an FRC game with a football. It would be such a pain in the butt to handle a football inside. Can you imagine the jams we would get? Just physical jams. It's hard enough dealing with a round ball inside a robot, let alone an odd shaped football. Oh my gosh, that would be fun. I think we'd figure it out, but it would be quite difficult to get to that point. Another thing is we have we've been buying this Pulley Stock here. We buy it by the 12-foot lengths for some products that we have. So we decided to cut it up on a lathe. We put on these steel flanges on the outside of the pulley stock. So this is a 1/2-inch bore, 24-tooth HTD pulley with steel flanges on the outside. It's really good for belt in tube drivetrain or power transmissions. So you get your 2x1 tube, you put your HTD belt inside of it, kind of like chain in tube, but belt in tube. And this fits nicely. So aluminum pulley, steel flanges, kind of pressed into place, and it's pretty simple. Let's see what else we got. We got some brackets and such, some components for the climber in a box. We're also going to sell just the bearing sets and the whole thing, like without tubes. So if someone has their own supply of 2x2 or 1.5 by 1.5 or 1x1 tube, we'll sell just the winch and just the bearing kits and just the hook if they want to buy those things. So all the little brackets and such, those are going to be available. let's see what else. Oh, one thing, we thought about doing this for years. We just kind of, I don't know, we just haven't done it until now. And this is a little bit used, but this is a driver station. So, well, it's a driver station tray, really. I mean, you put your stuff on it that makes your entire drive station. But these are 1/4-inch polycarbonate pieces on the end. They're doubled up, so it's actually about a 1/2 inch of meat on the end, and then it's a 1/4-inch thick polycarbonate piece all across the bottom. We put some hook and loop adhesive stuff, aka Velcro, on the bottom. It's probably, I don't know if we're using Velcro brand or not, whatever, but hook and loop stuff. And then we have our famous peanut extrusion right here that you can buy in all kinds of different colors, and you set up your drive station. If your team is red, or you can buy red, or if you're all black, you can get black. I should know this, Pete, but what color is your team?
The one you're holding.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So we do have purple. We do have purple anodized available. This is actually purple powder coated, if you can tell, because our team Cybertooth got their parts powder coated, so they wanted this to match. So, you know, it looks all uniform and everything. But yeah, it's a simple widget. It's a simple thing for your team to have to keep your driver station, I guess, secure and easily carryable as you go from the field to your pit and such, as we all do.
That I'll be honest with you, even before I set up this interview, is I have 2 of those sitting in my cart, because we've designed 3 different driver stations and we just over engineer everything. You know, I mean, it's part of the process, but just to have that, and it's perfectly, from what I saw, the width just fits right in. So that's one less thing that we have to worry about, and we can just concentrate on the robot that much more for this coming season. And yes, it's in purple. Both of them.
Cool. Well, we do have some more things coming out for various reasons in our lovely culture and supply chain environment we have around us. We're not ready to bring them out yet. What I think what we're doing nowadays is if we have something ready to release, we'll just go ahead and release it. So stay tuned to AndyMark over the next couple months, and we'll have other things available that come out. Kind of just depends on when they come in. I'm not going to tease what they are, because I don't want people to say I got to have that, and then it's either on a boat coming in to the States, or there's a certain component that's still coming in. So yeah, we hope to have, we will have more parts to show people when we see them out at an event. If we go to your district or your regional, or if you see us at championships, we're going to have more things then, so you can see what's in store for us, either throughout the season or even this summer or next season. But yeah, we're really happy with the products that we do have, all these new things. And if you go to the website, go to AndyMark.com, and you go to we have a new tab, or new products tab. You can see all kinds of things as complex as a wheel, or a climber in a box, or as simple as the Sushi Rollers, or even like screws and spacers and hardware that we list. Anything new that we put out there or we've updated, it goes on the new products page, and so you can see what we come up with new. If it's simple as a screw or as complex as a wheel, it's there.
And you've hit on something that we haven't covered yet, and I didn't ask you about that. The whole COVID and supply chain, and the other individuals I've had on said it's really like hit us hard. And I know AndyMark it hits you hard as well. So I appreciate that there are more things coming. I like not knowing everything, but I understand that the circumstances present themselves to where you don't want to put something out there if you can't sell it, because you have to wait for it to come in. So it's kind of I think we're all learning something about supply chain, whether we like it or not. We're learning it. So, I mean, if you go to the store, even the supermarket, half the shelves sometimes are empty. You're like, what's going on? Or when the ketchup crisis came, the single packets of ketchup, you can get that if you're going to the restaurant. So it's affecting everyone.
Well, we are positioned so that most of our products are either made in Indiana or where we're located, or they're made in mostly the Midwest, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. That's most of the manufacturers of our products. However, at the same time, some raw materials, some products, like we still buy motors, bearings, other hardware from overseas, Taiwan, China, but some of our local suppliers, they had a hard time getting some raw materials just because of shipping or whatever issues during the last few months. For instance, the FTC game that has the fancy duck in it, we had some molded components, some thermoformed components inside of that game that we were getting the thermoformed process done pretty quickly, but the raw material, the raw ABS sheet was hard to find back in October. So that took multiple weeks of lead time that we didn't usually expect with just simple sheet of plastic. So yeah, it's odd how supply chain is. It's not just, I mean, we hear from the automotive industry, it's always the problem of the IC in the engine, or IC in some of the components in the car, the chip. Those are out of stock and hard to get. But no, it's much more than that. We're being told the extrusions are very long lead items now. Some plastic material is very long lead item. So we have to just make sure we're doing our best to get ready for these long lead items. And sometimes some of them we don't even know about yet. We haven't gone back to order everything. And sometimes we're going to get surprised by this item is out of stock because it's just not available. I hope that's going to get better over the next year. I think people are getting better at planning for it, but we still have a lot of issues with supply chain. Thankfully, the shipping delays that are happening, some with now, like with UPS and FedEx, as they're ramping up for the Christmas shipping, season's it's happening right now.
Right.
That thankfully for FRC, our shipping usually happens after the Christmas holiday season. So some of the lags and lead time we're seeing now with shipping, those might clear up in January and February, but I can't promise that, that's for sure. So if you're wanting to buy anything from any FRC or FIRST supplier, I would say give yourself more time than you have done in the past. If you have a certain set date for buying robot parts or supply parts for your team, I would just move it up maybe a week or two to get plenty of time to get the parts you need to build your robot.
You took my thought out of my head and addressed it even before I asked the question. My next question was going to be, Andy, what would you recommend people ordering right now? Because we're 24 days. We're 24 days away from kickoff.
24 days. It doesn't seem like that is possible, but yeah, I guess that's true. It's already December. It's almost New Year's Eve. And then before we know it, it'll be FRC kickoff. So as far as things to order, gosh, the usual for stuff this time of year, I think your raw materials, things you're going to use, like if you're low on batteries, you're going to have to, or if your batteries need to be updated because they've been sitting around for a couple of years, I would buy a battery tester and enough batteries to get you through the season. And I would rather buy them now than wait till February when your robot's built. Plastic sheet, extrusions, fasteners, rivets, screws, those things are pretty easy to get, but I would hate to run out of a certain sized rivet that you need that you're used to using for your drive base or your arm or whatever you're making. So yeah, the things that you're pretty sure you're going to use year after year, I would buy those things now as opposed to waiting until February, March. Maybe electronics. Electronics is going to be kind of difficult because we don't know when a lot of the new electronic sets or new electronic components are coming in from Rev with their their new system. I saw a presentation last week. It looked really nice, but just availability of those parts are going to be limited. I know they're trying to ship out parts to teams soon, but just so you know, and the community knows, the cross the road electronics parts are still legal. You can still use those for your FRC robot. We have a lot of those components, like the power distribution board and the voltage regulator module. All those things can still be used. This is a year we're going to see both the Rev supplemental components around RoboRios and RoboRio version 2s, and we're still going to see cross the road electronic components. So kudos to FIRST making both of those systems available, because if one or the other was the only one, it would be hard to get supply of all those things, especially during a transition year. But speaking of that, with the RoboRio, like right now, we're having trouble getting the RoboRio in for sale to veteran teams. I think rookie teams are being told they're getting the version 2 of the RoboRio in their kickoff kit, but veteran teams are not getting that. So we have a high demand for RoboRios here at AndyMark, because we're the seller of that component out to the FRC market. My only request there is please be patient as our supply comes in. We should have those in hopefully at the end of this month in December, but we've also seen that date pushed back a couple times. I think it's going to be here at the end of December, but your RoboRio version 1 still works. Just the version 2 has faster processors, a little more RAM in it, and other improvements that are going to make robots act better. But you all know that RoboRio 1, or the version 1, was a nice robot controller that worked very well.
And still does. I still have one. I have multiple. So you made some brilliant points. I mean, thanks to FIRST for allowing multiple, avenues for our team, because I think that's gonna save us this year with as much as we want to. And people need to temper their expectations and just allow the shipping and everything to happen, because it's going to take, if you're worried about it, you should order now.
Yeah. Right.
2 weeks away from Christmas, or a week and a half away. Mark my words, it's 25 days when we're recording this to kick off. Go order now. I'm ordering now. So.
And if with our company, with AndyMark, if something's not in stock, obviously you can put in on the product page, you can put in the nice email me when available entry. Like right now we have many hundreds of people who've done that for the RoboRio version 2. So if there's anything that we're out of stock in, put your email in there. Or if you want to send us an email at customerservice@andymark.com, you can let us know that you're waiting on this part. You're really eager to see when it comes back in stock. But the best way to see when that does come back in stock is to put in the email me when available entry and put your email in there. And once they come back in stock, we'll automatically ping all the emails that are on file for that product.
I did that for Climber in a Box, and I got a notification that it came in the other day.
Cool.
So it was available. So just I love the website. So I always put my email in there when I need something if it's not there. So, and I watch my email.
It's a great website. It's a testament to a lot of work. We have a lot of people here at AndyMark, way smarter than me, that made that website what it is today. And they're always listening to feedback. They're always wanting to improve it. Yeah, good job to all the staff to make the website as agile and efficient as it is.
Well, Andy, we're not going to take up too much more of your time. I thank you for coming on board. Maybe I'll catch up with you during the season, see how things are going, see how your team's doing, see how the people at AndyMark are desperately filling the boxes of the orders that are people that wait too long, or if they're ordering now. So we'll make you as busy as possible during the holidays. Okay.
Great. Well, thanks for your time, Pete. It was a nice evening spending it with you. And I wish you the best during this holiday season.
You too, Andy. Thank you for coming by.
Bye-bye.